Driving seems pretty simple, doesn't it? But let me tell you about some wild things caught on dashcams that'll make you rethink that. Take this incident, for example, where a woman was just driving along and suddenly a tree falls right in front of her car. Crazy, right? Well, I've put together a bunch of clips that really show how wild and unpredictable driving can be. 10. Slovenia Fireball. Shooting stars at night are pretty cool, right? But there's something equally amazing that happens during the day. Let's talk about meteorites, those space rocks that make a grand entrance to Earth, turning a regular day into a very questionable one. On February 28, 2020, around 10:30 in the morning, people in Slovenia, Croatia, Italy, Austria, and Hungary saw something incredible. A bright ball of light, known as a daytime fireball, zoomed across the sky. This wasn't just a regular space event, it was actual pieces of an asteroid landing in southern Slovenia, caught on dashcams, security cameras, and even a cyclist's helmet camera. This was one of the rare moments when space rocks were quickly found and linked back to their place in the solar system. What made this event super cool was that people right under its path got to see and hear it. There were loud booms and a flash that lasted 3.5 seconds, leaving a trail of dust that hung around for minutes. Analysis showed these rocks were tough cookies, surviving pressure more intense than what you'd find in your car tires, about 50 times over. Before hitting Earth, this space rock was pretty big, about 4 metric tons and a meter wide. It broke into 17 pieces as it entered the atmosphere. From this cosmic show, 3 pieces weighing 720 grams in total were picked up for study, while the biggest piece, around 10 kilograms, is still out there, probably buried in a field. Meteorites are like time capsules from space, holding secrets about our solar system and how life started on Earth. But often, their stories aren't heard because we don't know where they land. To fix this, astronomers are setting up networks of cameras to watch for fireballs. These cameras help figure out exactly where these space rocks fall and trace them back to their cosmic homes. The tricky part is, these camera networks work best at night, so catching these events during the day is still a big challenge for us to understand our place in the universe better. 9. Is it really Yeti? You've likely heard those wild stories about mysterious creatures that lurk in remote places, wrapped in myths and legends. Well, here's one that might just top them all: a reported sighting of a Yeti. Believe it or not, this isn't just another wildlife spotting. It's about the mythical Yeti itself, supposedly making an appearance in the snowy wilderness of the Ural Mountains. So this is how the whole adventure kicked off. 2 explorers from Russia were braving the snow on a hike, navigating the area around the towering Mount Bolshoy Iremel in Bashkortostan, standing proud at about 5,213 feet. Right there, on a secluded path, their dashcam caught something totally unexpected. As they were driving through the snow, a tall figure suddenly ran across their path. According to many, this was a Yeti, darting from one side to the other and leaving both the travelers and anyone who's seen the footage pretty stunned. This all went down about 22 miles away from the closest village, in a spot that's around 162 miles southeast of Ufa, the capital of Bashkiria. One of the guys in the car, Vadim Gilmanov, was just as shocked as you'd expect. He pointed out, "You can clearly see this thing is running on 2 legs." The whole situation got them thinking. Could it be someone's prank? But then, who'd go through all that trouble in such a remote place in the middle of the night? He wondered. That's when Dr. Anatoly Yakovlev, a zoology expert from Bashkir State University, came in with a more skeptical take. He basically said there's no way a Yeti was out there because, despite all the stories, no one's ever found any real evidence like bones or anything else to prove Yet exist. Despite the experts' doubts, the story of this Yeti sighting is still pretty captivating. It's one of those tales that pulls in both folks who love a good mystery and those who are a bit more skeptical. 8. Definitely creepy. Ever stumbled upon those eerie stories that blur the line between our world and something otherworldly? Well, I've got about a ghostly encounter that's sure to send shivers down your spine and leave you scratching your head. We're diving into the paranormal, where a simple car ride suddenly shifts into a close encounter with the unknown. So there was this car cruising down a dark road at night. its headlights cutting a path through the shadows. Out of nowhere, a figure appeared. An elderly woman dressed all in white, with her long brown hair flowing down, leaning on a walking stick. The car's lights threw her into relief against the night, and she was staring straight at them. Inside the car, panic broke out with shouts of, "Lock it! Lock it! Who is that?" As she moved closer, the tension skyrocketed with cries of, "Go in reverse! In reverse!" The fear was tangible, and when she started moving quickly towards them, it was pure terror. "Go back! Please go away, ghost!" This spooky incident happened near Bopdev Ghat, a secluded area outside Pune, India. Indian folklore is packed with stories of spirits and hauntings deeply rooted in the culture. These stories often tell of souls left behind with unresolved issues or seeking revenge. There are tales of bhoots, spirits of those who died violently, churails, women wronged seeking vengeance, and other entities like pishachas, vitalas, and pretas, each with their own eerie backstories. After looking closely at the footage, some think it shows the ghost of a bride. The story goes back to the 80s, to a tragic car crash that killed a wedding party, including the bride and groom, on that same road. The woman in the footage, wearing white like a bride, raises so many questions. Has she been haunting this spot ever since that terrible day, or was this just a rare appearance? People are split, wondering if this might be a real ghost or maybe something less mysterious, just left behind to spark our imaginations. 7. Safety first on Manchester Road. One Wednesday in 2017, the usual quiet of Interstate 270 South past Manchester Road was broken by a shocking incident. Luckily, he had just put a dash camera in his work truck, so he caught the whole thing on video. Here's what went down. 3 cars were speeding along I-270, going faster and being more reckless than you'd believe. Derges saw a white Grand Am suddenly cut off a yellow Malibu and then hit the brakes hard. The yellow car almost lost control as the driver tried to avoid a crash. They were all going so fast, somewhere between 80, 100 miles per hour, and eventually the Malibu crashed into the divider and rolled over 4 times. Derges couldn't believe it. He thought he had just seen the worst outcome of road rage. The way those cars were driving, something bad was bound to happen. And it's not just a one-off thing. Research, like the studies done by the AAA Foundation, shows that aggressive driving is behind a lot of serious accidents on the road. After everything calmed down, Derges talked about how important it is to keep cool in situations like that. His advice? If you're getting worked up, just pull over, have a drink of water, and let it go. It's better to be safe than sorry. But there's a bit of a silver lining to this story. Despite the crash, people came together to help the driver out of the wrecked car. It was a real moment of kindness and community spirit. Thankfully, the driver's injuries weren't fatal. As for the cars that started it all, they just drove off, leaving behind a scene that sparked a lot of talk about how dangerous road rage can be. 6. Rockfall in Taiwan. On August 31, 2013, something really insane happened in the Baduzi area of Taiwan because of a lot of rain. This place, right by Taiwan's north coast, is usually known for its cool rocks and Chaojing Park, with its big grassy spots near the water. But on this day, a driver, just cruising along with a camera on his dashboard in Keelung City, got the scare of his life. As Tropical Storm Kongray was dumping rain all over, making everything super wet and flooded, this driver nearly had a giant boulder crash into his car. Yeah, a massive rock, about 43 cubic meters big, broke off from a hill right next to Highway Route 2 and almost hit a car. Imagine just driving, and suddenly a huge rock comes out of nowhere, stopping just a few inches away from smashing into the car in front of you. Landslides, like this rockfall, happen when a bunch of things line up just wrong, like steep hills, loose soil, and lots of rain, or even an earthquake shaking things up. This time, the heavy rain from the storm made the ground super slippery and unstable, causing the rock to come crashing down. The road had to be closed because of this, and there was even a car that got totally squashed by this giant rock. The driver, who was just showered in smaller rocks and mud, was super lucky to drive away without a scratch. The whole thing was caught on the dashboard camera and ended up on YouTube, showing everyone just how close it was. So if you thought driving was stressful enough, imagine having to watch out for giant rocks flying at you, at least in some parts of Taiwan. 5. 2-year-old kid falls out of van. In the streets of Wujiang in Jiangsu province, a dashcam caught something unbelievable. A 2-year-old kid became part of the traffic in a way no one saw coming. This little explorer managed to get out of a moving van, hitting the ground. But here's where it gets interesting. The boy's granddad was driving the van and had no clue his grandson was about to pull off a sneaky move. Unlike other toddlers who might sit quietly, this one had plans to roam, ending up in the trunk. The van had been in a minor crash before, which left the back door a tad unreliable. And just like that, at the worst, or best, possible moment, the door gave way, and the toddler made his unexpected exit. But then, something amazing happened. A driver behind the van saw everything and jumped into action to make sure the toddler was okay. Another driver even chased down the grandfather to tell him what happened. "I was past the intersection when I heard non-stop honking," the grandfather said, putting 2 and 2 together about his missing grandkid. He stopped immediately and ran back to scoop up the adventurous toddler. Incredibly, the kid was totally fine. The dashcam footage showed the grandfather picking up the toddler, a sigh of relief in the middle of a tense situation. After this close call, local traffic officials used the chance to talk about how important it is to keep kids safe in cars. They echoed advice from health experts about using the right car seats and seat belts to protect the little ones from getting hurt. 4. Knocked over by the storm's strong winds. Life can throw us into some really unexpected moments, especially when nature decides to show its power. That's exactly what happened on a road in Georgia during Tropical Storm Irma. There was this gutsy SUV driver cruising through the wild winds of Hurricane Irma. She was April Baxter, living in a mobile home in Georgia, trying to make her way to her sister-in-law's place to seek shelter from the relentless storm. As she drove along Georgia Highway 92 just south of Atlanta, things took a crazy turn. Out of nowhere, a massive pine tree got uprooted by the raging storm and came crashing down towards the highway. Baxter, in her clean white Lexus, was going about 40 miles per hour and narrowly dodged the falling tree trunk. She hit the brakes real hard, but it was too late. The tree smashed onto the ground with such force that it sent the back of her SUV flying into the air. It finally landed with a thud, showing just how powerful nature can be. Luckily, there was this guy named Michael Head driving behind her, and he had a dashcam capturing all of this. He saw Baxter's car after the crash and wasted no time getting help. Baxter herself told the whole ordeal to WSB-TV, recalling how fast it all happened. She thought it was game over when she saw the tree coming down. Thankfully, Baxter came out of it with just some minor injuries, a little burn from the seatbelt, a sore shoulder, and a bruised knee. But considering what could have happened, she counted her lucky stars. When reporters showed up later, Head stressed how lucky Baxter was to react in time. He knew it could have been much worse if she hadn't seen the tree coming down when she did. After the dust settled, Head got help for Baxter, making sure emergency services were on the way. He even reached out to her husband to let him know what happened. Despite the scary situation, Baxter's injuries weren't life-threatening, thank goodness. It just goes to show how unpredictable life is and how quickly things can change. Tropical Storm Irma was no joke, leaving behind stories of narrow escapes and intense moments, with Baxter's experience being a prime example of the surprises that can pop up, even on roads we think we know well. 3. UFO sighted in Manitoba. Back in 2011, over the skies of Selkirk, Manitoba, something happened that got people talking all over Canada. A police car's dashcam recorded something pretty unusual, a bright show of yellow and orange lights moving in the night sky. The police officer who caught it on camera was sure this wasn't just any normal plane or helicopter. This sighting got so much attention that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, even talked to air traffic control in Winnipeg about it. They didn't just stop there. They sent the info up the chain to NORAD and the Canadian Air Force, treating it as really important news. It even got logged in CADORS, which is a big deal database for aviation incidents run by Transport Canada. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Someone who knew about the sighting decided the story needed to get out, so they shared the video with Vice World News. After that, the RCMP, Transport Canada, and the Canadian military all went silent, not saying a word about the event. Chris Rutkowski, a top ufologist in Canada, got really interested in the video. He even talked to the RCMP officer who filmed it. Rutkowski thought maybe it was a chartered plane, just without the usual lights we see on aircraft. Then Robert Powell from the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies took a look. He didn't think it was a plane at all. Maybe a paper lantern floating on the wind, he suggested. But Rutkowski wasn't convinced that a paper lantern would be floating around Manitoba in the middle of the night. So, this event has turned into a big puzzle. People are really into figuring out what those lights were. It shows how much we're all drawn to mysteries in the sky, especially when even the experts can't agree on what's going on. 2. Struck by lightning. Tim Mullins was just driving around in his Ford F-150 doing his thing when something wild happened. This wasn't about someone taking a wrong turn. No, we're talking about a lightning bolt coming down from the sky, hitting a tree, and it's all caught on his truck's dash cam. This happened one Saturday afternoon in Eugene, Oregon. There was this huge Douglas fir tree, about 120 feet tall, right where Mullins was driving. Out of nowhere, lightning hit the tree, splitting it in half and sending a big piece of it crashing onto the road right in front of Mullins. The crazy part? That lightning bolt was hotter than hot, like 53,540 degrees Fahrenheit hot. That's way hotter than the surface of the sun. The tree caught fire right after getting hit, standing there all lit up until it couldn't hold up anymore. Mullins had almost no time to react. He ended up hitting the fallen tree piece with his truck. Thankfully, he and his passenger were okay, but the truck's front bumper got pretty messed up. Mullins loved that truck, and sadly, it wasn't fully covered for this kind of thing. People who saw it happen started taking pictures and videos, especially of the truck next to the burnt-up tree remains. It was a crazy scene, with wood and branches everywhere. The Eugene Springfield Fire Department said pieces of the tree were thrown over 200 yards away. That's how strong the lightning was. After all this, the city folks decided that the damaged tree had to go before it caused any more trouble. They worked on taking it down into Sunday evening, making sure the road was safe again. Lightning striking down to the ground isn't rare, but catching something like this on camera is. It really shows why having a dash cam can be so useful, recording those out-of-the-blue moments that happen when you least expect them. 1. Orange flash lighting up the sky. One night in Russia's Sverdlovsk region, a dash cam caught something wild, a massive orange flash lighting up the sky. People who saw it were left scratching their heads, wondering what on earth or out of it could cause such a bright light. It was so intense, it made night look like day for a moment before everything went dark again. It's one of those things that's as baffling as it is amazing. Officials tried to say it was just the military doing some training with explosives, as mentioned by a local news site, e1.ru. But there was no sound of an explosion, and the military said it wasn't them, so that theory didn't hold up for long. Then, the conversation shifted to space. RT suggested it might have been a fireball, basically an asteroid getting super hot as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Viktor Grokovsky, who knows a lot about meteorites, thought this was likely. He figured a bolide, a super bright meteor, might have burned up in the atmosphere, hidden by clouds, and that's what caused the big flash. But not everyone's on board with that idea. An astronomer named Vadim Krushinsky pointed out that the flash was orange, not white, like you'd expect from a bolide. He thinks it might have been a rocket launch that caused the bright light, even though the timing of known launches didn't exactly match up. Even more doubt came from Marco Langbroek of the Dutch Meteor Society. He told MSNBC that the way the light just hung there, starting with a red glow, doesn't really fit with a meteor. He's leaning more towards something happening on the ground, like a fire or explosion. that got reflected by the clouds. Then there's a local theory about an old chemical plant near the town of Rej. Could an accident there have caused the flash? Or despite what officials say, could it have been some military experiment gone showy? So we've got all these guesses, from asteroids and space rockets to industrial explosions and secret military tests, but with no clear answers and everyone keeping mum, the real reason behind that night's light show is still a big question mark. It's one of those mysteries that keeps you wondering about all the incredible and unexplained things out there. What do you think happened? Ever had one of those moments that totally caught you off guard and left you speechless? I'm all ears. Go ahead and share that unforgettable experience from your adventure, and keep an eye out, because who knows what other wild stories are waiting around the corner on this journey we're on.